from that point of view, our relationship that we grew
Mhm.
up together, would you have taken it any other way if it was a stranger? Right? Because I know
Mhm.
you for such a long time. That is a joke in itself. And you can tell me that. But if it comes from anyone else, would it have the same effect? I don't know. That's exactly what I'm talking about. How comfortable are we with each other? That's what it's all about.
I think it speaks into the level of trust naturally. And
In
I have this philosophy or this theory that trust was meant to liberate you. It's not supposed to be this scare tactic that who do I trust, who don't I trust, you know?
Yeah.
We were meant to be aware of, little dangers in the world. But when it comes to trust, I think naturally, when you had come up with this idea, I felt a sense of liberation. There was a sense of
Yeah.
freedom in going to explore something that's if this is a journey we're taking to go and catch fish together, you know. The depth of it, of course, has a lot more technicalities towards it, but I think that it just gives you that sense of, wow, here's two friends or three friends going on this awesome mission together.
But you'd expect
What
your
you
friend
said,
not to lie to you, right? You think it's an honest relationship. That's what makes it
100%,
work. So that goes to the point
absolutely.
that I'm trying to express. If you go with it with true purity, right, and you really go into life with not lying, then you would identify these type of things quickly, right? It's a point straight up made. If you are honest in life and honest to the way you approach anything, you would spot bullshit coming from a mile away. That's my point I'm trying to make with you. And that is what I think we've learned in this past 2 weeks is trusting people and being honest with those people. You could definitely see the change in them. And you can see, but this person is definitely fucking around with us, if you know what I mean.
I'm the gift of the gab, so me and Never not gonna rumble. You guys see how much time we spent speaking to each other.
Well, Never knows me a long time by now. He knows one thing I hate, like between friends, right? Is if you lie to me. Oh, we can lie about little white lies, small
Yeah.
things. That's okay. But when it comes to serious stuff and you're lying to me, I hate that. Like, I would just write you off right there
Mm.
if I find out that you're lying to me. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter how long we're friends. If we're friends 20 years, I don't care.
But you'd
Like if
feel
it's
that, right?
something serious,
You'd feel it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Mm.
It would hurt. I would like lay at night and I'd think about it. Like, damn, I can't
Wow.
believe he did that, man. I trusted him so
No,
much.
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Thank you
No,
for your vulnerability there, man. So
no, but
cool.
it's the honest truth on it, you know.
Mm.
I
Mm.
think based on all my life experience and the journeys that I've taken, I'm more tolerant to those type of things. I always want to see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I always have hope because who am I to give up so easily in anyone? It shows that I have no depth. I have no stamina, and if I can give up on anything that easily, then I shouldn't aspire to do anything that's difficult because that's where the magic lies in the amount you put into something, and that's the amount you're going to get out. It's not made for the weak. Success as well, building something with anybody. If you give up at the first hurdle, who are you to ever make a comment or opinion on anyone's pathway in life? That's it. And I've changed my perspective on life because you can't go through life. And yes, Heine mentioned something very interesting about the white lie, but those all those small white lies they add up. You know,
Mm.
they
Mm.
add up to the point where you are not sure whether what you are and who you are is true enough to actually continue. So every day you enter life in that manner, it's like you need that to make your life exciting. And what is life? Is it about lying or the experiences that you go through that makes it really,
But
really exciting?
but also at the demise of someone else, you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
like Hein just said now, and the people that are borderline compulsive, because compulsive in its own is like a psychological problem, but they don't have remorse for how they made someone else feel what they like.
Yeah. So no.
That's why they continue, understand? And what
Mm.
was meant for them getting away with it, they don't realize that with effect comes cause, or cause, there's a cause
With cause
that
comes
comes with an
effect. Yeah,
effect. Yeah.
exactly.
And I mean, to have that y- from high now, or hear that from him, you will lay at night and think about it. And I could, I can kind of reflect on that. And that's a painful feeling. And
Yeah.
why would someone want to do that with, you know,
But that's a
someone
certain
else's
kind.
trust? Yeah.
That's a certain kind of person. Think that they are way more intelligent than the people in the room. You know, they really think that what they believe so strongly in themselves that they can see no wrong, and they look at you and they think, oh, but these guys will never get it. They have no idea. And at the end of the day, they believe in that strategy so much that they can see no wrong. They don't see it as a problem. Who are we to say, right? How you judge another man's journey based on your footsteps should never be a topic.
Yeah. Klein was saying earlier about like they don't care about the consequences, which is actually true. They don't care. They
Mhm.
just, if they lie to you and they see you believe them, it's like a adrenaline a
Yeah,
rush for them,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
exciting. It's like, he believes me. Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
got
Correct.
another one.
yeah,
Yeah, I got another one.
yeah.
And you hitting the nail
That's how they
right
see
on
it.
the head, because that's something similar we experienced,
Yeah.
you know. But sometimes, like in this case, you dangle the carrot,
Mhm.
and just as long as you're aware, there's still possibilities to explore avenues to make this work, even though um, when you are aware of it, you're not anymore hurt, which is a good thing.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, I
That's
understand
an
from Niven's
interesting
side.
word. That's an interesting word, hurt. That I think everything that leads up to this idea is that most people are alone, and they are hurt. You understand? Because why should you put up that persona to fool who? Why would you do it? Why are we going down this road? What do you get out of it? And I think maybe it could be a life journey they fulfill, but I think it's a practice through the journey that they've perfected because they love the reaction they get out of it. It's a win for them. Selfish minds, selfish mentality.
Mm.
And it's a tactic that was built out of survival. It's not built out of abundance,
No, definitely
you
not.
know.
Mm.
And that's why I would have spoken to you about this before, that we have a very hard mentality towards them, but in fact they are also ill.
Yeah, yeah.
And we need to somehow in this world find a solution how we can be tender with them. Because if it happens to you personally, very different. Your reaction is natural. You're going to get angry. You're going to get frustrated. But from if we use this platform to touch people and make an impact, we want to also be there for people like that. You know, to have a voice in for the one that is busy breaking through that, maybe that wants to see change in himself. You
But
know,
how does
so
he know?
um,
They don't
uh,
know. How does she know?
it's always my on the deeper end of who I am that everybody comes to salvation,
Mm.
and on their own. You understand? And so I always will leave a little gap for that, for them to, um, you know, get to that point where they discover the true versions of themselves. But in fact, the damage that is caused through behavior like that is because it comes from damaged behavior.
Yeah, but
But it's very well masked. It's very well masked, and it's almost it's very smartly done. It's very intelligently done to get to that level of manipulation. You know,
yeah. So we can categorize it as exactly as you said. Manipulation. So it must come from a very vindictive or a narcissistic way of doing it, a control. Because why would you, if you've known from people you've met and spent time with, then not have seen it? First of all, spending all the years with them. Number two, you must have seen something good in them to have had that relationship. And now that you've noticed you've spent so much more time with them, you've realized I've gotten to know this person, and this is who they've magically became.
There's a lot of it that is a childhood wound, perhaps,
Yeah.
an unhealed wound that wasn't necessarily taken upon the opportunity to heal. So they'd find coping mechanisms. The scarring lies within the ability to have this I don't give a F mentality. Do you understand?
Yeah, so you have to take your hat off for those who actually come out of it and can
100%.
still be
100%.
normal in that
But
respect.
no excuse. Let's be very straight and honest about it. As every adult, it's your responsibility to do the healing on your own.
Yeah, people are not strong enough, I think, it's not everyone that has that ability, and there's not many people that can actually identify the problems they have. It takes a real man, sorry to put it in that form, it takes a real strong person to identify that they have a problem. It takes an even stronger person to know that they can correct it or go through that journey of fixing themselves. We're talking about a subject that's quite intense and lonely. It's not a group effort, endeavor. This is such a lonely road to take, and for those who actually stuck in it, to some respect you feel sad, and when they do get out, there's a lot of respect you give to them for what they've achieved. And then at the same
Correct, yeah.
time, those people in the same balance, when they look at others that fail, they are so hard trained by that lifestyle that they couldn't give a damn of the others that fail. They're not interested. They will break those because they see it's the survival of the fittest, and that's the way it is. So it's a
Yeah.
touchy subject to try and change someone that's so deep into it. And it's not an easy road to take. Even me in my journey, not saying that's part of it, I had my ups and downs, and I think I'm a better person due to the fact that I have identified that, what, there is change in life we need to take, and it's not for me. I'm doing it for everyone around me. So there's an unselfish act I did to become a better person. Not
But what
considering myself.
excites me is that I'm sure this is a topic that our viewers can share their comments with us. Please, we'd love to hear what you guys think on this topic. It's definitely going to give us tools and guidance how we can perhaps make a help in someone else's life.
Definitely.
And just one thing from my side is, we've just been discussing like lying, and a lot of what we said is like lying coming from a place of like malice, but it's not always the case. Like sometimes it comes from a place of like I think Klein mentioned past trauma,
Yeah.
and that can bring in a sense of fear or feeling of I'm not worthy or things like
Yeah,
that, where
yeah.
you would lie, especially if you look at like in domestic abuse cases, right? Where a mother would lie that she's not being beaten because she fears the consequences of actually telling the truth.
True
And that
story.
is
Yeah.
not coming from a place of malice, but from a place of fear and hurt and
Yeah.
thinking of
Yeah.
consequences. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
just wanted to add that part when it comes to
Very,
lying.
very
Like,
true.
not always
And
malice.
perhaps a story for another episode, but I'm experiencing something quite similar to that,
Yeah.
where
Yeah, that would be good to know.
things are being made up in order to allow yourself to look like you paint such a picture, you know.
If I
Um,
may, if I may add to that, what you just said, coming out of a abusive home, that's where a lot of people in certain life's journeys, they resort to sports. They get sports and other activities that we wouldn't want to straight up mention in itself, but they try to camouflage their hurt and focus on something else. And 90% of the time, they are really good at the second thing because it takes their mind away.
That's why they speak in
Extracurricular activities.
Exactly.
100%. They speak of sport as a code of discipline
Yep.
for a reason,
Yep. It's a
for
getaway. Yeah.
yeah. It's a healthy escape,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's a level of commitment and encouragement that you build into yourself that you know you are capable.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Pick
to
up
be
on
fair,
those
not
people.
all of us are strong enough to
No.
make that choice for a healthy escape.
Yeah.
Most of us, we're going to choose the unhealthy escape. You
Yeah,
know,
You,
yeah,
exactly. And it's what one, I don't know where I heard it, must have been on one of the social media platforms, where they mentioned that is not the problem. That is the solution.
yeah. I sent you that video. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That is
When they
not the
speak of
problem.
drugs and the addiction, that yeah, the drug when they use
yeah.
it by that time, it's the solution.
It's the
And
solution. They themselves are the problem.
Why you didn't send
yeah,
me this video, Klein? Jamie, can you bring it up?
you
Jamie.
know what?
Yeah. Nice one.
Jamie, can you bring up that one?
I
Yeah.
like that. I love that. Um, but I'm
Love you,
very
Joe.
picky as to what I send to people because I don't offend people. And you don't know who's where in what mindset, but I'll definitely forward you and once I come
Yeah,
across
I
it
hear
again.
what you say with the respect part, but you know what? It's at a point. I think after you hit the age of 35, when you just pass that quarter part of life, it's now when you start assessing what you tolerate and what affects you. And if we at that stage of our lives where something like that would affect us, it comes with trial and error. We get to know each other, but that's something that you could send to anyone. It's not a big problem, I suppose.
Okay, definitely I'll
Yeah.
forward it to you the next time. Yeah.
No. Talking about that topic, there's a lot of I think we'll keep it for another day, or another subject where we bring out the extramural activities, and I'm sure we can all go on some journeys and experiences. We'll definitely have to label that one as over 18, right? Before we post
Yeah.
it.
But you
Yeah.
know what? It gives us the intention that we had fun when we were supposed to. Um, I like to. This is probably a touchy subject for a lot of people out there, but I'm gonna go and dive right in. You know, I just once had this epiphany walking into a bar, and you know, you get this very same type of character standing by the bar, and of course, naturally, the girls will levitate towards the gentleman. But when it comes to the type of gentleman it is, I'm always questioning myself: is that my role model? You know, because it's like this gentleman that seems a bit older, and you know, has somehow made it in life, and his nice fortune is standing outside there. My kupno, or for the English viewers, he's buying whiskeys and drinks for everybody.
Yeah.
And this thought of like, dude, no man, do I want to go through a midlife crisis in this way? That I'm like reached the age of 45, standing here entertaining young girls because I can only think, dude, how were you when you were
Yeah.
25? You know, because that wouldn't be your outcome of where you would have wanted to end up at
Not to
that
the,
age, rather so
not to
on an
defend
island
that
somewhere.
man, not to defend that man, and I don't defend him at all. It's just that we apply what we do to the one, we should do to the other as well. I think each of them are on their own levels of misunderstanding and journeys. The one is more deeper in one side, and the other one is expressing it his way. I mean, he could be there thinking, I messed up so much in life, and now I'm here. I don't have a home to go to. Yes, I am successful, but there's no loving home. I've given all of that up, and this is the only comfort I get out of strangers, and this is where you'll find me every night. I think that's his point of view. If I'm
Yeah,
being
no, of
very,
course. I'm not necessarily
That's a
speaking
good point.
yeah.
on the idea that it's wrong for him. You
Mhm.
know, I have to align myself with what I feel is good company or what I believe is a good role model. You know,
Yeah.
so the modeling of his behavior, like Kahin said, yes, each to their own, and everybody has the right and choice to escape on their own. You know,
Mhm.
without judgment. So it's not made a judgment, but if I was to get in his pocket, would I like told him, dude, I would, rather
Mhm.
be here and let's go catch our fish. Let's speak about your issue, and then we see how we can take a brilliant idea you have there in your head and make
Yeah.
and make sense of it. because you're not gonna grow. Come on,
Mm.
But I
you
think
know.
he's
You
part.
know, also, oh, so I was gonna say, so also if you're judging him, right, buying drinks for the young girls, you also have to then judge the young girls taking drinks from the older man, right?
I suppose.
And then
I suppose there's
you have
no
to judge the
judgment, but
parents.
yeah,
You have to judge the
Exactly.
parents
It's
yeah.
who
There you
brought up
go.
the
that
young girl. Where do we end with the
exactly,
judgment?
where do we end? So that's a very good
Yeah.
point you make.
Yeah, that's why
Um,
we don't go there. Yeah, let's not go
so
there.
that is a full circle to what we are talking about tonight, and that is being honest with yourself. We become the thing we fear most, and that's a very good
That
lesson
limits
to
you, yeah.
learn.
That
Yeah,
limits you, yeah.
Mm.
is that is what you should aspire to, is to be as pure as you possibly can. Yes, we bring this up as a topic, viewers, but for you to see exactly what a circle looks like, and that is the exact what would I say, conclusion to that type of character, and how not to judge people for the journeys they've traveled, if it makes any sense, right? If
Yeah,
it
yeah.
teaches you one thing, that when you're looking at others and pointing the finger, the other four fingers are pointing straight back at you, and that's a perfect
100%.
example in 30 minutes of how that circle can turn around towards you, you know.
Lesson learned,
Yeah.
100%.